And I think that her situation speaks for a lot of other situations in real life that we just kind of let things build up. We try to handle it on our own. We try to hide it from the people closest to us. And then eventually it can lead to many more deep-rooted issues.
You are now tuned into TDSC Radio.
Hey, what's going on, guys? And welcome back to another episode of Owning She. I'm your host, Shena L. And as always, I hope you all are having a terrific week so far. Happy Thursday to you. So tonight we are going to be talking about stigmas and stigmata. Let me give you a bit of etymology. Stigma, a mark or a brand. Stigmata, shame, disgrace, dishonor, stain, taint, blot, blemish. And we are speaking with the author and writer of the actual book, Stigmata. We have author Symone Dashell in the building with us tonight, and she is going to be talking to us about mental health and wellness. And I know you guys are going to benefit much from this episode. We are going to go ahead and let Symone introduce herself. Hey, Symone Dashell, how are you? And thank you for joining me this evening.
Hello, thank you for having me. I'm so excited to be here today.
My pleasure. I really want to talk about this book and your background. Before we get into all of that, would you mind telling the audience a bit about yourself and maybe a little bit about your novel, Stigmata, and how you got started with that?
Absolutely. So I am Symone Dashell. I am originally from Louisiana, Alexandria to be exact. I am now in Georgia. I have education in psychology, social sciences, and mental health. This book, I started it at the end of 2019. Finished it completely at the end of 2020. It has been so rewarding to me to write such a book. So Stigmata is a psychological thriller and a spiritual or Christian fiction about a young lady named Maya Afad who experienced an extremely traumatic situation. It is a story that goes through her battle of coping in the physical, mental, and spiritual realm. It touches on different mental health aspects and disorders. It talks about isolation and the journey to healing, love, finding a purpose out of our pain, spirituality, and so much more. And it even has that entertainment aspect and different twists as well.
Okay, so you mentioned that you had, first let's go back to your background. In psychology, was it social science and mental health?
So my first undergrad, so I actually have two undergrad, but the psychology one, I have a bachelor's of arts in psychology, and then my master's is psychology and social sciences, and now I'm currently in school for clinical mental health counseling.
Now, where do you plan to take that? Are you going for psychology, psychologist, or just to work in the field of mental health? Or
yeah, so after this degree is complete, I will be working as a mental health counselor. I do want to continue through school, and I do want to become a psychologist, which requires a doctorate. So ultimately, I want to operate as a psychologist, yes.
Okay, awesome. So what was your inspiration behind writing Stigmata, and what do you hope for the readers to gain when they read this book?
So first, my education and me working in the mental health area, that was a big contributor to writing the book. And so to my love of mental health, and then that love, what comes with that, the need to spread that to others, and the result was a book. Also, I love a good fiction thriller, and I felt the push, and I felt that it was my calling to write this thriller in my own way. And that way includes practical parts and the spiritual aspects as well. I believe that it provides lessons for anyone and in any walk of life, along with entertainment. And what I want people to gain from this book, when people shut the book at the end, I want them to feel like they're not alone, because many times whenever you're dealing with mental health, a lot of people feel like they're alone, like they can't talk to anyone. But I want it to be out there that it's okay to talk to someone, and it can be detrimental to not speak with someone. Yeah, I want them to be entertained, of course. And I really want there to be, I know a book can't provide just like total fulfillment, but with this book, I want them to feel fulfilled because it has like a great amount of deep thinking content and maybe to help them evaluate themselves. I just want people to learn some great things without them actually feeling like they're learning or going through a lecture.
Right. I love to read books that do that for me. They provide some type of, it sparks that light bulb or that inner spiritual light. And it's like, oh, wow, that really hit me home. Was that the reason why you wrote Stigmata?
The main reason is to bring awareness to the fact that mental illnesses can still be a stigma and to bring awareness to mental health in general and that we all need help. We all need that guidance to get through whatever we may be going through.
Mm-hmm. In a situation like that, with your background that you have, what are some things that constitute being a stigma that a lot of people don't realize is one?
That's a really good question. So earlier you mentioned you went through the definition of stigma or stigmata. And one word you mentioned is shame. I do not think people understand the actual implications of holding on to that shame. I don't think that they understand. You also mentioned the word wound, and I do believe that not taking care of your mental health, it does give wounds. It does cause shame.
Yeah.
It causes us to walk around.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and it causes us to walk around heavy. And it is, though, the good thing is that more and more people are working on their mental health and healing. And so more and more people are starting to understand the importance of it, but there's still too many that don't.
That is so true. Simone was saying that a lot of us carry these stigmas. We carry these stains and blots and shames and taints, and we don't realize that we have them. We are marked and branded sometime through generational curses and sometimes through things that we are not willing to let go and take that ownership and responsibility and say, okay, this is what's going on with me. I'll take it to something that I'm familiar with as far as relationships. A lot of people are having trouble building those strong relationships because they carry stigmas, and they don't realize it's everybody else's fault. It's everybody else's problem. But the root of the problem is, I'll say this, when you have several people pointing out a same thing about you, you might want to go and check it out. Or even if you notice it about yourself, you might want to go and check it out and say, hey, I have this going on. I notice when I'm around people, I act this sort of way, or I feel this sort of way, or this is bothering me. Whenever this thought or this person or this thing comes about, it changes my entire atmosphere. And that is a stigma. That is something that you are holding on to that needs rest, right? Would you agree, Simone?
I do agree. Absolutely. That was a great way to put it. Absolutely.
So I got to read some of Stigmata. I saw that what I did get to read was, I guess, Maya. And she was going through, I guess she was getting ready to realize what was going on with her. But you guys, this thing is really like a psychological thriller. Do you mind telling us a little bit more about Maya, or you don't want to give too much away?
Yeah, I can definitely say a bit more. So it's really, what's going on with her, I will say, is not obvious, which is why it's best to just keep reading through. I guess that's what makes it the thriller part, the exciting part. It's not known at first, but what happens with her, it changes her. And that happens in real life. By our traumatic circumstances, we become changed. And then she tried to hide, which then made it extremely worse, way worse than it had to be. What was going on with her, it got worse until she had to be placed in the care of other people because of her situation. And I think that her situation speaks for a lot of other situations in real life that we just kind of let things build up. We try to handle it on our own. We try to hide it from the people closest to us. And then eventually it can lead to many more deep-rooted issues.
I like that you mentioned that, because as humans, of course, we deal with that naturally. What would you say is the healthiest way to recognize or to attack a situation like that? Because a lot of people don't believe in seeking therapy or help or reaching out, especially culturally. They think that is something. I mean, nowadays, I have noticed that a lot of us are coming around to that. And I want to talk to an outside person, but a lot of people are ashamed to do that, to reach out. So, yeah, I'll just ask that. Do you feel there's a particular reason why people don't want to seek help?
That's a tough one, because I have yet to fully understand it, other than it's just like, it's literally shame by itself. We don't, I would say that I was in a situation where I just think that I can handle it on my own. Like, I got it. I don't need that outside factor. And yes, we are very strong people. Yes, oftentimes we got it, in quotes, we got it. But sometimes we don't. And I do believe that it takes true self-awareness to say, okay, I need help. I need to stop what I'm doing. I need to ask someone else, just even if it's a friend, like, do you see this in me? Do you see this? Well, what do you think I should do? Maybe it takes us asking questions about ourselves, how other people see us. Maybe they see something that we can't see, and then just being a little bit more open, because we are in a different time. We are in a different world, and being more open.
Right.
And understanding that therapy is important. It's not anything that's embarrassing. It's not anything that can hurt us. And the options of counseling and therapy are endless. Like, if you don't like your therapist, then just go to a new one. If you just don't match with them, which is common, just go to a new one,
With therapists or and matching with a therapist, would you say that a lot of people, even though that they, have this professionalism and go by a code of ethics, would you say that sometimes a lot of therapists throw their own personal beliefs in it, and that's why people probably won't match or decide to go to another person?
Yes, I do believe that can happen. The education that is needed to get to a certain level of therapy and counseling, it is extensive, and there are hours that have to be completed in order to get to that point that helps the therapist understand their biases and their beliefs and views. So I would like to say that should, no, of course not. Like, therapy is perfect, but yes, there are going to be those people that throw in their own beliefs and things like that. Hopefully they let people know that ahead of time, that, okay, I'm a Christian therapist, or I'm this or that. But if not, it's okay to let them know, this is not working for me. I'm going to continue my search somewhere else. That's okay.
Yeah, it is. It is. And I've been there. I tell people all the time, I'm with mental wellness and mental health and self-improvement and self-love. It is okay to go and seek help. It is okay to go out and talk to somebody, because I have done it several times, even as a young child, even a young teen, young lady growing up, and coming from a lot of places where we come from as a culture. It definitely puts a stigma on your brain, and it's hard to function as an adult in the real world when you kind of really never had a foundation or somewhere to start with. So you're kind of out in the world and you're piling on more and more to that. Finding someone to talk to is definitely important. And I think we kind of covered the next question about the psychological warfare, like you were mentioning, reach out to a friend, because I was going to ask some ways that we can recognize that we are at war with ourselves and how to begin healing. But you kind of touched on that already about reach out to someone, reach out to a friend. And I want to say this too, that when we reach out for advice, people, we have to be willing to accept what is said in return. And have that open heart and mind to receive what someone else is saying, especially if he's seeking professional help. These people are professionals and say, hey, well, I've seen this time and time again, and I understand what's going on, and this is a way to get out of it. And I know it may sound easier said than done, or it may look like that it is unobtainable, but it definitely is. But we have to be willing to do the work ourselves. So you guys just be careful with that. I see that you said you had your background in, mental wellness and psychology.
Yes.
And you raise awareness about that, at what point in your life did you say, this is something I want to do?
I started in undergrad. So I started at Grambling State University. I started with I started with a criminal justice route. And I was just like, well, I'm missing something. So instead of getting rid of that one, I added a second major of psychology. And then I continued through to get my master's. During that time, it was strengthening. So my love for the mental health realm was strengthening. And so through learning about the mind, I began to develop a need to bring awareness. And during that time, I learned, through learning about psychology, I learned a lot about myself and became so self-aware. I learned what things trigger me, what things don't. I learned how to cope through certain circumstances without even having like a mental health professional. These were just basic things that I was learning. And of course, with learning that, I'm not trying to hoard the information. I want everyone to know what I know, and I want everyone to be great. I would say that it started in undergrad. I think it was my sophomore year whenever I added that second major of psychology.
Okay, so I know that with Stigmata, it has the Christian undertones, and that is based on your belief system. And I think that is very great for a lot of listeners because, of course, everybody has their, different walk of life. A lot of Christians or people of faith are going to listen to the show and say, hey, that might be something beneficial. So from your belief background, what would you say to those people who may want to buy from you from a Christian background? It's okay to speak to them now if you want.
Okay, so I can absolutely say that there were times I knew that I was doing the right thing. I knew that I was writing the right book, and I knew that I was in the right area when I was writing, because there were times where what was happening in the book would align with what was happening in real life. Like, for example, I was writing, there was something that happened near Easter time in the book, and I look at the date and it's Easter. Like, everything was just aligning. Of course, I wasn't trying to write about Easter on that day, but it's just the way that things were aligning. I was having many dreams. Some of those dreams are incorporated into the book because they fit perfectly with what I was writing. And I would say, not just to the Christian, but to any person, that this book, yes, it does have the Christian undertones, but the lessons anyone can apply. Yeah, I believe that anyone can take those lessons and make them their own, because overall it is about mental health, and then you connect to your creator. I connect to Christ. I'm not sure who everyone else connects to, but that's where the book circles back to, being connected with your creator.
Yeah, and that's totally fine. That's totally fine. And I always tell people, wherever your source is, because we've got a big world out here, but whatever you pull that source from and whatever gives you peace and solace and harmony and hope for tomorrow, then you do that. And like you said, that brought on Stigmata and dealing with your own personal battles, and I appreciate you for doing that. With the Divine Sister Circle, we have women that come in all the time that could use your background, that could use your spiritual background and your professional background to help them out with a lot of different things. So I really look forward to actually sticking around and getting some work done together, because I love what you're doing. It is very, 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 very necessary in this time.
I'm looking forward to that.
Absolutely, me too. Now, my life's work is to build, of course, a foundation and help others find their purpose in life, resulting in a more powerful, woman, to be more powerful as women. So as a mental wellness worker and a woman, so do you think that genuine sisterhood amongst women can be wholly cultivated? Do you think there are women that are open to it? Or let me word it this way. Do you feel as though there is some detachment going on as to why women are not as receptive as they should be to one another?
Yes, I do feel like there is detachment, but I also feel like the sisterhood can be truly cultivate it as well. So I believe that the detachment comes from our own expectations. Oftentimes we expect us from other
Mm-hmm.
people, and that typically like messes us up along our journey. Distrust is another one, but then I believe that everyone is still searching for a sense of being and belonging.
Mm-hmm.
So until we find this, we're just searching, we're just out there. But I believe that with discernment and with similar interests and just following that voice within us, that we can find that group of women or even just another woman to connect with, that we can build that genuine connection.
And that's true, especially when you brought up the distrust, because it's hard, especially being scarred and going through life. And I think we have given people chances to, kind of be our friend or be trusted or whatever, and we have been let down. But I also think that that's life. And as humans, we are going to disappoint one another, whether we like it or not, because we are not perfect in our ways. You know what I mean? So it's like, and a lot of us are suffering from traumas. A lot of us are suffering from so many different things that we just only know how to be how we are until we learn a new way to be, until we unlearn our old behaviors and learn something new. So we have to learn patience, I think, is very important when dealing with other people, and not, like you said, putting our own views on another person, because you're going to only disappoint yourself, because we all think differently and we all feel differently, and we have to respect that space of another person and say, okay, you are entitled to that. I respect that. It's okay to feel how you feel, and not have any judgment towards the other person. And I think that's where friendships and relationships amongst women and even just people will begin to flourish, when we start to accept people for who they are and not try to fit in to this image of what's going on around us. And I think that we do that so much. We have to break those barriers down and stop trying to be so accepted, and learn to accept ourselves, accept our minds and our hearts. Yes, we have to accept us first, because if we're not 100% together, not even 100%, even 70% together, we can't even really be any good to anyone else. So it's about self-searching, self-healing, self-awareness. Be mindful of yourself, and take care of yourself most of all, and yes, and it's okay to say no. It's okay to say no. I know a lot of people have a hard time saying no, and they don't want to seem like the oddball out or the bad girl or guy, but it's okay to say, you know what, this doesn't align with my purpose. This doesn't align with my goal. This doesn't align with my belief, and we just have to part ways. I love you, and stop putting so much expectation on other people, because we're going to ultimately always be disappointed that way. So, yeah. Symone, what is the most valuable piece of advice you can give to those struggling with self-identity, those struggling to just figure out, like, man, who am I? Where do I even start? What do I do? I hear all these people talking about find yourself. How do I find myself? What would you say to someone like that?
Yep, that's good. Like, I have been there, like, trying to understand. Like, it seems like all the people around me know themselves. Like, why don't I know me? What's going on here? But I would say that understand that finding your identity is a journey. The focus should be on the journey as opposed to like focusing on that destination. Your identity is always evolving and you're always growing. So focus on your identity as a journey, definitely giving yourself grace and refraining from comparison. Oh my goodness. I know that comparison was something that was detrimental to me. It brought me down. It had me, feeling symptoms of depression, different things like that, because I was just so focused on the lives of other people. But then I had to realize, like, this is where I am right now is where I am supposed to be. What I know about myself right now is what I need to know. And if I don't know enough, I'm going to continue to search for it. I'm going to continue to read. I'm going to pray, if that's what you do. I'm going to go to a seminar or something, anything to develop myself, my identity. Making sure that we focus on the positive, how we're moving, and what we can do to continue to develop that identity.
Absolutely. I agree with you. A lot of people don't realize that they're depressed. A lot of people don't realize what depression is. I would even say this. Sometimes people are depressed or think they're depressed and really aren't depressed. Like, it could be the simplest thing that can change your life around so simply just by recognizing that stigma, that stigmata.
Yes.
You know, once you realize what your stigma is, okay, and you release yourself from that and heal from that, you're talking about walking on clouds every day, and we see the world is falling down right in front of our eyes. But when you are at peace with yourself, none of that matters. You hear me? None of that matters. And that's the place of peace we need to get to in our lives. I'm talking about to the point where it could be a fallen building in front of you and you just like,
keep walking.
Oh, well, you know, you are at peace with who you are. And when you feel that way, that's how you know you have identified and found yourself, and nothing that doesn't pertain to you or that is healthy to you really will matter, you know? So yeah, I would say that. And I think that it took me a long time to find that place myself. I'm talking about well into like I want to say mid 20s, late 20s, early 30s. It took me a long time to realize what my stigma was and how to shake free from it. And everybody's process is different, but I ignored the fact that it was a stigma, and I got comfortable blaming everybody else for my problem and thinking that if that person said one particular thing, I was going to be okay and I would feel better. But it had to be me to do the work.
Yes.
It had to be me to do the work. And when I was free from that, oh my goodness. You can't tell me nothing.
I know.
You can't tell me nothing. Okay? People, you know, and especially being in the production and radio business, it is a mess. And I try to keep my humbleness as much as I can, you know, and I don't get upset by a lot of things. I just say, yep, that's not my door. That's not my window. That's not my ride. I'll wait for the next one, you know, because that right there, I'm not dealing with that. You are not going to tarnish me. You are not. And I think as humans, we need to realize like I was saying before, just to say no and say, that's not mine. I don't want it. That's not mine. Take it back. Return the sender. I want what gives me peace and happiness and joy. I don't want nothing else. It has nothing to do with me. And we would be so much better as people. But it's all a progress, and we'll get there. That's for sure. But
absolutely,
start self-recognizing is the first step. Absolutely. So Symone Dashell, am I saying that right? Dashell, right?
You are, yes.
Awesome. So what's next for you as far as writing and Stigmata? I'm going to get the book because I'm intrigued. And actually, as soon as we get off of our recording, I'm going to go purchase it. But what is next for you for, you know, writing and as an author?
So I am currently doing and learning more about freelance writing and ghostwriting. I'm just learning. I have started on, I want to do a series of short stories. They will be along the lines of Stigmata, that psychological thriller aspect, along with the lessons that come with dealing with mental health. It'll be a series of short stories. And just trying to continue in my purpose of writing. So I've done short stories and published them on websites and things like that. But other than that, I'm just going to continue moving forward in this writing. I love it. It is my calling and my purpose. So it doesn't stop with just one book.
Absolutely. Go, 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 go. I love it. I love the writing world, being an author myself twice and publishing for others. And I'm actually working on 2 self-help type things right now that, I mean, they probably won't be released till next year because I'm really putting my heart and soul into these because I want them to be that message for you, just as Stigmata is. And I love writing. I love the fact that we are human and transparent, and whatever we put on the paper, whatever we type or write or send to the editor is our truth. And there's somebody out there that is going to relate to. It's somebody out there that it's going to reach and help and benefit. And that's the beauty of writing, because I can be as creative as I want, also as transparent as I want, and reach somebody. And that's who I've always been. Even as a little girl, I've always been the one who wants to help the world. Like, I know a lot of people feel like I'm going to save the world. I'm going to be the person that's going to fix the world. And I still feel that way to this day. Even if I can just do a portion of it, I'm happy.
Yes.
You know, I want to do the work of being and doing good, being divine in the world, and fulfilling that purpose and touching the next person, holding my sister by the hand. You don't have to think twice to call my number. You don't have to think twice to email me. You don't have to think twice to confide in me, because no one else will ever know what you and I spoke about. This is between you and me. But I will say, you may not like what I say to you, but sometimes what hurts is actually most beneficial. And what we want to be told is usually no good for us. Be receptive. I know a lot of people tell me things about myself. It may not necessarily feel good, but it's for my good. We have a lot of pride that needs to come down, and be humble people and be who we are supposed to be in the world. I appreciate you, Symone. I'm sorry, I could talk all day. When I get to talking about stuff like this, I could go all day.
That's okay.
But I want you to tell the people how to find out more about you, far as social media and your website and books and all that good stuff.
Okay, yeah. So my Facebook is Symone Dashell. So that's Symone. And then Dashell is Dashell. My Instagram, the same, Symone Dashell. My website is simonedashell.com. And my book can be purchased from my website or Amazon. That would be the easiest. Amazon, other than my website. And you would just search Stigmata by Symone Dashell, and it's there.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. And I want to tell people, as a writer, people, we want you to buy off of our website. I'm going to just be honest. Like, it's okay that you can get it on, like, it's okay that you can get it on Walmart and Barnes and Nobles and Amazon. That's okay. But they take a portion of that, and we want the support so we can continue bringing you the things that you like from your favorite authors. I'm just saying, you know, Shena gonna tell the truth. So, but I appreciate that. And I want to thank you so much for joining me this evening. And I hope for a great relationship between you and I for a long, long time to come. And we do great work together.
I know we will.
Absolutely. So you guys, make sure you check out Symone Dashell. I will have everything in the show notes, as you know, and it will be linked, so that makes it a lot easier for everyone to just click and go. She is going to be my partner, okay? So I'm just telling you now, and we appreciate you and love you for listening. And I thank you again, Symone, for joining me this evening.
Thank you.
Absolutely. And that is our show for tonight. Until next time. You've just listened to another episode of Owning She with Shena L. Check your favorite podcast platforms for our past episodes and be sure to subscribe for new ones. Want to be a guest on the show? Visit www.shenalv.com/contact. And remember to always own she.